Guys, welcome to an academy. So this is the editorial analysis of newspapers for today. That is the 30th of January 2017. Will be presented to you by me, Dipanshu Singh. So a lot to be covered today. Very interesting articles to be covered in today's newspapers. So you can follow me in academy on this link, and you can read more about me on that slide. And these are the articles that we'll be covering today. So the practice question is this one for today, and do mention your answers in the comment section of the discuss page, not the main website. So apart from that, you can read these articles. Anyway, I'm already covering the Gandhi for our troubled times. Still, you can go through the article because each and every line of this article, it was very important. When I was summarizing this article, I actually thought what all to skip and what all to summarize. Very, very, very important article. Get real insights on Gandhi's philosophy and his ideals. So the first article is Gandhi for our troubled times and how his philosophies and ideals are very much relevant in the contemporary times. So there has been a common notion in India where people only think of Gandhi as only a name and an image in India today. However, he has been much more appreciated and practiced seriously, outside India among the last, if you compare the last two generations of India. And if you look some of the stalwart leaders like Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Rohila Mandela, and Václav Havel were influenced by him and his philosophy of non-violence. So therefore, he had an universal appeal, and his success as a universal gadfly goes far beyond his national stature as a founding father of modern India. So this gadfly of Socrates is, basically what does gadfly mean? So gadfly is a person who questions the status quo, and he's an audacious person. He does not fear about anyone, and he knows about himself, and he asks the right questions. So this term was originally associated with the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, who is obviously considered as the father of philosophy and Western philosophy, particularly in his defense when there was a trial on for his life. So, comparing and contrasting Gandhi with Socrates, here it is said that he is a public gadfly who does not conform himself to any orthodoxy of Western or Indian. So he had a universal message, which can be measured by his immense impact on all forms of dissent against the unjust regime, with the Britishers, in the Boer War, in the Britishers in South Africa or in India. And he has become part of the moral conscience of humanity as a revolt against injustice. So he was also a critique of modern civilization in Hind Swaraj. So Hind Swaraj is very important. There was a question in mains last year regarding Hind Swaraj in his writings. So this is one of his greatest works of intellectual self-examination on modern political thought. So basically, he always made an effort on asking the right questions at the right time. And he inherited this idea and implemented these ideas on his thought and on his actions. So he was an audacious person, no doubt about that. So his audacity goes beyond challenging Western ideas. He is a public gadfly of sorts. Obviously, does not conform himself to any orthodoxy. So his other aspect is the Socratic revolution, that he always believed in self-examination accompanied by a self-transformation of society. This article, each and every line of this article has so many important concepts that you can use from papers ranging from GS1 to GS4, specifically in GS4 ethics paper. So if you look at his legacy, another Socratic aspect which is absent in today's politicians and people is the belief of courage, and the leaders lack courage in today's time. And he always believed in fighting injustice, and he also believed that the person who is fighting for injustice must not only have the courage of his opinions but also be ready to give her life to the cause. So he never feared for his own life. And for Satyagraha, if you look at the philosophy for Satyagraha, he always believed that and implied his willingness to accept not only suffering but to also death for the sake of his principle and morality. And he was always ready to raise the matters of self-suffering as a choice of public policy. And this is why sometimes he had to face the increasing loneliness, which is also one of the fundamental features of a Socratic gadfly. Now, Gandhi's nobility of spirit in the face of populism is sometimes a timely reminder of how creatively and imaginatively asking question and the act of dissent and not conforming to the public general view can become a way of questioning the important questions. And one of its biggest underlying motto of Gandhi's political and intellectual life was that he never believed in a policy of self-censorship. He was always vocal, and he had no fear of power of the state or of a tyrannical crowd. And and moreover than that, he was very confident about the thing he wanted to do. He was aware of which battles to fight and which ones to let go. So if you can link this issue with the the true struggle issue, when he was faced with a moral dilemma, then obviously he went on focusing on village work when rest of the Congress working committee were busy with participating in the government, and then obviously engaging with masses. Now, for both Socrates and Gandhi, the process of dialogue and ceaseless questioning is actually considered as the most dissenting and the productive thinking of gadflies in the public space. And his vision of new and independent India was that by creating a possibility of a critical public culture. This is which is very similar to what President Pranab Mukherjee said on the eve of the address of Republic Day, that we should encourage a society where we can criticize on every issue. But obviously, this is kind of missing in today's time due to the rise of intolerance, the so-called intolerance. And his philosophy of ahimsa, transcended not just the non-violent process of speaking against the power while withstanding tyranny and silencing, but also it's not merely an act of kindness to all living creatures, because he said that very famously in Swaraj. He mentioned that in fact in Harijan he mentioned that it is not meant for the cowardly, it is meant for the brave. And Satyagraha rests on a philosophical belief that non-violence is a struggle against wickedness and hypocrisy, and moreover it is the highest form of moral intervention against falsehood and injustice in the public space. So he also personified a moral and a dialogical leadership behavior widely acknowledged as a true form of interconnectedness and service. So obviously he was very much connected to the people. His way of service to people was acknowledged worldwide. And the true lesson of Gandhi's political life lies in the moral conviction and a sense of duty. Very important line for ethics paper. You can mention this in your ethics paper as well. So this idea of a transformative leadership where the leaders are responsible for their acts in an ethical way is the underlying or the bedrock of political consciousness in the present India. So therefore this idea of his democracy as a mean to fulfill one's civic duty at the same time as an individual participating in a community, and as an end to be attained through moral and political resistance in all forms of centralization of power. So this conception of democracy is very much relevant in the present times, which is missing in present day politics. And his approach to politics was can be a potential antidote to the contemporary crisis of democracy towards reinventing politics as a capacity for self-realization, through which you can obviously transform the society, but for that initially you need to transform yourself. So very important article. The other one is regarding the IAM bill, which was recently given approval by the Union Cabinet. So it will be introduced in the Parliament. So what it has changed? So basically, IAMs will be considered as institutions of national importance like IITs and AIMS. And obviously, it is done to provide more autonomy to the institutions. And they will be able to award degrees because presently they were registered under the Societies Acts and they cannot award degrees and only award PhD DBMs. So one of the critical issue was regarding the fellowship, which was not as such recognized globally. So apart from that, a lot of autonomy will be given, and there will be no interference from the central government. And President, who is the visitor of most of the central universities, will have a minimal say because most of the things will be carried out by the Board of Governors. So you can go through this. I'm just summarizing the whole article. And for accountability, independent agencies will periodically review the performance of the IMs, and CAG will continue to audit their accounts, which will be presented in the Parliament. And there was certain issue initially before the passing of this approval from the cabinet. There were certain two clauses which had issues about accountability and interference of government. So this was obviously forced the ministry to dilute the contentious clauses. And on reservations, there is generally a proposed law states that the IMs will have to provide reservation for SC, ST and OBC student, but it has a clause which only says that IMs shall try to recruit teachers from weaker sections. So there is no specific mention on this. We need more clarity on it. But then after this, other BS schools are raising certain voices. The Educational Promotion Society of India has written to HRD Ministry on behalf of private management schools, requesting the government to allow PGDM institutions to also offer MBA degrees because over the last few decades, IM's program has become very popular. So now they are thinking if they are awarding MBA degrees, if IM starts awarding MBA degrees, so the PGDM degrees by these private institutions will not, they will be at a certain disadvantage. So, but then private educational institutions can only award degrees if it becomes either a state university or a deemed university or gets affiliated to a state university. So therefore the government has asked them to follow this route. So you can check the previous Daily Hindu summary for more details on this bill. Now, one is regarding the other side of the Jallikattu uprising. Obviously, it's related to culture and their morality and other principal issues. But then there are certain issues which needs to be linked into this particular Jallikattu uprising. So, despite the unprecedented popular support, which cut across major gender and caste, the protest, were many in the state who criticized this mobilization. So, basically, it was visualized through wide spectrum themes that whether it was a fight between constitution versus culture, support of foreign NGOs to destabilize India's, and then obviously Dalit assertionism and other just another Tamil rhetoric. But this all was due to there's another side of this uprising as well, because a lot of farmers and other community people who are in huge distress because of the crop failure and the loss of jobs, and not getting adequate jobs and the jobless growth in the state of Tamil Nadu. So these all culminated into a deeper and a more stronger uprising. So this article basically talks about the issues apart from there's an underlying issue which is burning up inside the the state of Tamil Nadu. So the certain issues which are causing a problem is that the agrarian distress, the farmer suicides because of the Kaveri Delta issue. Obviously, there was an issue in regarding this as well. Then there's jobless growth, the inadequate public investments in agriculture, especially in irrigation, and cultivation due to high input intensity, and then obviously there is overuse and over extraction of groundwater. Failure of recent monsoons, then obviously demonetization had a big effect on them, and then generally payment for works done under the MG Narega have been delayed, which just added up to this all distress. And then there is a call for returning to better agroecological farming methods, and then obviously there is declining job growth, even though education surveys reports that the Tamil Nadu's youth are engaged in some form of higher education, but most of the jobs have been created in construction and low-end services that are clearly out of the sync for the expectations of the students. So there's a deep mistrust and of the political tokenism that is evident in all through the protest. So more likely the youth will did not see this ordinance against Jallikattu as a victory, but the protest was not just about Jallikattu. It transcended issues of agrarian distress, the political the unrest among youth regarding jobless growth. So the government's focus should be on youth and job creation, and fixing the issues of agrarian economy and rural-urban divide would yield them much more benefits. The other one is regarding choked by the global gag rule. So this gag rule is basically that the global NGOs from USA cannot use their foreign monies for the abortion-related services. So this was initially introduced by President Ronald Reagan in 1984 and then revoked by successive democratic governments. So basically, a lot of NGOs will be harmed especially in the African continents, who help or affect the funds for crucial activities like HIV/AIDS prevention, contraceptive accesses, and sexuality information, maternal child health. So, but it also has a certain positive connotation to it, because it will prevent coercive abortions, or involuntary sterilizations will be curtailed. Another positive when it comes to India is the issue of tribal women who are generally forced by government hospitals to undergo postpartum sterilization. Now, other issue about from that is that it only applies to the promotion of abortion as a means of family planning, does not conform to sexual attack or abortion to save the life of pregnant women. So it can be utilized, the fund can be utilized for this. But then obviously the most affected country will be Africa. So what about India? So generally the National Family Health Survey states that 3/4 of Indian women get contraceptive services from the NGO, from the government sector. So 60% in the form of sterilization. So most of the part from the sterilization sector is from the NGO. But then the aspect about sexual education and temporary methods of birth control is from the non-governmental sector, which obviously will be affected after this gag rule. So several aspects of sex and reproduction that the government refuses to touch is dealt by the sector. So India is fearing that it may affect it indirectly, urban health or school cleanliness drives or rural child mortality. So we should definitely move towards to tackle the shift towards more government spending on these other trivial issues of the non-government sector's interference. The next one is the fielding the finest. So this is just an article you can go through. I just summarize the important points that what all changes need to be introduced to reform the selection process of the Chief of Army Staff. One is that reducing the stipulation of tenancy of 2 years. That is, generally they need to have minimum 2 years of service left. So this needs to be extended to 18 months, because the role of Chief of Army Staff is very challenging, and he needs to possess incisive vision and have deep insights into broader political strategies. And because they also participate in national decision making process over strategic operational issues. If you look at demonetization drive, Prime Minister consulted all the chief of the armed forces, and that there can be a selection board consisting of 3 service chief who can obviously recommend the names, and a final recommendation could be then sent to the government. And the present system does not work because obviously it involves a lot of scrutiny at every stage. So this is it for today, guys. I hope you like the video. Till next video, I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much.